All right, everybody. Welcome to the stream for the Smite Night podcast episode 6, I think this is. And today we are joined by the one, the only Adapting, who you may or definitely have heard of. I'm going to throw this one right over to Kara.
Thanks, Judas. Hello, everybody. As Judas said, welcome to episode 6 of the Smite Night podcast. And it seems every single week the guests are getting bigger and bigger. And once again, Don Doug has dipped into his little black book of contacts and pulled out none other than former SPL pro, current SCC player, two-time world champion, and genuinely considered one of the best players of Smite of all time. And that's not me just bigging him up. That is genuinely the consensus. It's none other than Adapting. How are you today, mate?
Hello, yeah, I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, good to hear. Well, where do we even begin with a Smite history like yours? You go way, way back, all the way back to the early seasons. So the first question is, how did you get introduced into Smite? What was your introduction to the game, and how did you find it when it was just a fledgling game?
So I started playing Smite in the beginning of 2014. Basically New Year's 2014 I started playing. Like heading over to the year 2014. Because my old Tribes teammates at the time decided to try it out, and they're like, let's all give it a go. And so there were 5 of us. Because I used to play the game Tribes as a like pro, or like whatever you want to call it back then. It wasn't really a big game. But I decided to try it with my teammates, and I don't know, I just thought it was fun. I really liked the idea of the mythology. I thought it was super cool to play gods as like Hercules, Thor, etc. So I was like, at least keep playing. And then the more I played, the more I started liking it. And then I just got super hooked. Ended up ditching Tribes for it.
Yeah, I'm sure your teammates were happy about that one, losing their Tribes teammate. Obviously, being a professional Smite player was something that turned out very, very successful for yourself. But how did you make that step from being just someone who was, as you say yourself, hooked and very, very into the game and very good at the game, to being picked up by, a professional team and being really one of the first pros that people recognized and knew outside of the game?
I think a lot of it just came down to luck. Obviously, like I used to stream. I think that's one of the bigger things you can always do to promote yourself is stream, because people can watch your gameplay and see the way you think, the way you play, like your mechanics, your decision making, everything really. But no, I was just playing ranked really, and I was trying to get good, and ended up climbing to being one of the first people to hit GM or like Masters when like a new split had come out, and yeah, I was just doing pretty well in ranked, and then I got a chance to try out for I5 at the time. Got picked up by them, and then from there, yeah, it's kind of just kept. I went on to like a team called Potato Boys, and then after that, I got the offer to play for the what turned it out to be Epsilon/Energy with Raffer, etc.
Yeah, and what a decision that was to go and join that team. Was it almost like a dream come true to be offered a professional contract at a pro game, or was it something that you always wanted to do when you were younger, or did it just sort of happen by chance?
It just happened by chance, and but I was super excited when I got the offer, and I did think that like we could do well. I didn't expect us to do as well as we ended up doing, but no, I was super excited, and I thought it was gonna be a lot of fun, and yeah, it was. So just really grateful I got the opportunity to play for that team.
Yeah, certainly a lot of fun, I can imagine. So for those of you who may be quite new to Smite, I know some of our community are. The team that Adapting is talking about joining with Irafa, Yamin, Dimi, and Emilito went on to win 2 world championships. The first of which was won under Epsilon. They beat Enemy and kind of blew them away a little bit with a 3-0 victory in the final. Do you remember much about that final? How were you feeling going into it? Were you nervous? Were you just confident in your ability? What was the story of that first world championship?
I was very confident heading into it. Like the only team I wasn't sure about was C9. I was thinking like they were gonna be our biggest challenge, and they were, as we saw. Heading into Enemy, I don't know, it already felt like we'd fought the best team, so like I felt really good thinking like, okay, we're gonna come in and smash these guys. And we kind of did. Like the games went really smoothly, and yeah, I was like, they were a good team too, but yeah, we just ended up beating them.
Yeah. And as if one World Championship wasn't enough, fast forward a year with the same roster, but obviously under a different name. You played Obey in the final, which was the first ever All-European final. And some people on that roster, people may be familiar with. Captain Twig, Variety, good players who are still pros today. Going into the final, you were undefeated for almost an entire year. You were favourites, but you were playing a team who were very familiar with you because you'd scrimmed against them a lot going into it. So what was the feeling for that second game? Obviously, you were against a stronger team, but was there the thing in the back of your mind that they may know how to beat us?
Yeah, I mean that World Championship was weird, right? Because the meta was so, I don't know, erratic or like whatever you want to say. Like a lot of it felt like the draft was very much what decided like who would win. Because it was really, really, really early game oriented, more early game than anything, because it was literally being able to fight before minions had even spawned. That was the meta.
Yeah.
And so it felt like in scrims we'd had like usually we were doing fairly well in scrims, but like before Worlds it was like we were trading a lot of games because like they would just have a draft where like maybe they would be slightly stronger in early game, and then a lot of the games would just be like one team gets like decided before minion spawns, and like so it was a bit definitely felt a bit nervous heading into it. Not as confident, but definitely thought that we knew what it took to beat them, and we knew like what they were really good at, because there was some stuff we struggled against in scrims. So we knew like, okay, we need to try and remove that from them, because that's like how they will beat us most likely.
And often people who win, world titles in any kind of discipline, really, not just gaming, talk about the second one sometimes meaning more than the first. So in your case, which of those world championships is the one that you look back on and think, that's the one that I'm glad we won? Was it the first that got you as your first championship ring, I guess, or was it confirming that you were the world's best with that second title?
I would say the first probably was the one that meant the most. Even though the second one was like I would say it's very equal. Like the second one, I really wanted the second one too. Don't get me wrong, but like the first was just like that was my dream, you know. Like I never dreamt of winning two. I
Yeah.
dreamt of winning one. Like I never
Yeah.
thought I'd be able to win two. Like I felt like that's way too far-fetched. So just getting the first, it just felt like a dream come true. Like standing there on the stage, winning, and like that's a lot of emotion. And then winning the second, yeah, that was just like I really wanted to solidify us as the best team in Smite, and we got to do that then.
Yeah, definitely did. And of course, you had a very long and successful career in the SPL after winning those two world titles. We asked the same to Solo or Troll last week, and then to Hazer when we spoke to him a couple of weeks before. But what's it like to compete at the very, very top of a game? What is your sort of day-to-day routine that revolves so heavily around something that most of us do for fun, but for you, it's more than fun. It's your way of life and your living.
So I think it depends a lot on the person, but for me, like I was trying to make sure I still had like somewhat of a healthy life outside of Smite. So like everything wasn't just Smite. Like trying to do some exercise. Like I would go to the gym, try and do basic stuff like cooking, and like making sure I'm just not like I don't know, not just like rotting away just playing the game, you know. But then when it came to Smite, was just trying to think about like ways to improve, and like sometimes even observing like other games, seeing how they do things, how they like do macro, etc., and being like, can this be somewhat applied to Smite? For me, just I would watch other streamers a lot. I would just watch like other junglers, just to like see what are they doing. Like that maybe I can pick up on, you know. Even if I thought that like they were that me, even if I thought I was maybe better than them, like I would still think I can always learn from other people, like what they're doing and like how they're playing, and like trying to implement or punish, you know, like if I see like their weaknesses, etc.
Yeah.
But
I think there's probably a lot of junglers out there who will be honoured to know that Adapting was watching their streams, potentially trying to learn something. But I guess that's what separates the pros and the very best in the world. So after, of course, many long years at the top, finally last year you decided to take a step back away from professional Smite. But thankfully, it's not the last we see of you in Smite. You are, of course, now competing in the SCC, and it's safe to say you are doing pretty well. Is it much different to the SPL in terms of competitiveness, or because it's just a step below, is it a bit like almost like the championship in football, where there's people who are so close to achieving the top that they give it absolutely everything, and it is just as competitive as maybe you get at the top?
I would say it's not as competitive. I would say a lot of the players are at the same kind of individual skill as pros, or maybe even better. But the big thing is just the way people understand the game, and like the way people like the teamwork, etc., is like slightly off. Everything's like slightly like if they were to play with maybe two pro players in like if you put two pro players in every SEC team that could like guide them, they could become like very good teams that would compete with the best pro teams probably. But I would say that there's definitely not a steep competition because you do have the very best teams in the league, in the pro league. But I also think that a lot of SEC teams could definitely take games off the bottom end SPL.
Yeah, well, that's interesting to hear. And what would you say? We've asked this to again the other guys you've had on. What is it that you say separates a very very good player from a pro? So obviously everybody needs exceptional game mechanics, but is there something mentally that holds people back? And is there one specific skill that you'd say to any good players listening? This is what you need to make it to.
Well, there's like one thing I can't just say like being opportunistic really, but I think it just comes to like really good understanding of the game and like how to play the map. Like you need to understand like the balances in everything you do and like how X thing affects Y. And then like I'd say like the best thing you can do is be a leader. If you wanna try and be the best team, like try and be a good shot caller or something, something that leads your team to victory. Or you're very good at like helping your shot caller out.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really interesting that the three people we've asked. So the coach said it was to not not lose your head when you're behind. The solo laner said it was winning your 1v1 matchups, and the jungler says it's about map control. So it's interesting how the roles individually bleed into what they think it takes to make it to the very very top. So one of our league members actually had a question regarding the EU scene at the moment, and they said, "What do you make of the current EU competitive scene? As only 12 EU teams were on the recent SOC signups."
so I don't really know. I'm not really sure what's going on with it sometimes, but I don't know. There's definitely some good teams, but I also think that like a lot of the good players are already in the SEC or SPL. So
Yeah, I think we were talking just before stream, saying about how, considering how small the SPL player base is, obviously only 14 teams and only 5 players on each team, there is quite a lot of European players in that makeup for a game that is obviously based in the US, and with the recent COVID restrictions has all been played over in the US. So I think Europe has got quite a good representation at the top level. I do think. Um, Next question, and this is a difficult one, and this is one that always people go up at, is what do you think makes you the best player that you were, and what makes adapting? What is your secret that separates you from other people?
yeah, it's just decision making, I would say. Like I just thought I had the best decision making with mechanics to back up my decisions. That's it. Like I would just try and like find small weaknesses in opponents and try and like abuse that and like see small openings and try and look for them and like instantly go for them. And like I think another thing is just like knowing that when I'm stronger, I play with confidence, Like I don't hesitate in like what I'm gonna do if I know for sure that like I'm gonna win this. And I think that's also a big thing. Like you need to play with your confidence and like trust in your own knowledge.
Yeah, very, very good advice there, I think. But anyway, enough about your career so far. Let's talk about the game, of course, in question. So we had a brief chat about this off air a second ago, but Season 8, Smite, what are you making of it?
I think it's really fun. Yeah, I think it's probably the best Smite spin since season 1 or 2. I think like season 5 was pretty fun, probably when the map changed again. But yeah, it's been very unique. It's been completely different to the other seasons of Smite. The map's bigger, new items, or like lack of items almost as well with the boots removal. Um, no, I just think the game's really fun right now. I do still think that there could be improvements, of course. Um, But I'd say in general, it's definitely been a step in the right direction, and it's made the game a lot more fun for me to play.
Yeah, I mean, best season since season 1 or 2. That is obviously very, very high praise. And of course, a game that's been out for 8 years, it's good to see that they can still make refreshing changes that bring people back. I think they hit the highest player base earlier in the year, so it's good to see that their changes are for the better. But in terms of sort of the meta in season 8 so far, we've seen it shift a couple of times already. We've seen Bo come back to life. We've seen Benevolence completely take over the SPL this week. At the start of season 8, we saw the attack speed meta on the likes of Bologna with Death Toll and stuff. So, where can you see the meta shifting now that the boots have settled in, or the removal of boots have settled in, and things are starting to come into a flow now? Where do you see it going?
Well, obviously they're gonna have they're changing the benevolence thingy, right? So I mean, it's probably just gonna be. I'm not really sure because there's a lot of different metas for different teams, and right now there's a lot of strong picks that some people neglect and some people leave open. And I mean, I think in general you want to try and be the team that has the pressure. So like I think most teams will probably still draft for good pressure lanes, but are also still good at fighting, for like late game. But a lot of pressure picks will still be good late game. They won't just be like completely useless. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think the meta picks will probably remain the same.
Yeah, and have you had a chance to play the new god on the PTS server yet? And if so, what do you make of them?
No, no, I haven't. I usually don't play PTS actually. I feel like it's always so like it's hard for me to like play stuff on PTS because first of all, you don't know if it's gonna make it into live.
Yeah.
And then uh also you don't really face that good competition. So like I feel like anything can usually feel good.
Yeah.
Even if it's not.
Yeah, that's very, very fair comment. Before we go on to the quick fire questions, Judas, and we have a lot of them today, is there anything you want to ask Adapting? Do you have anything you want to fire across?
Yeah. So there is one thing. I did my research, of course, for today, and there's something I spotted on your wiki page. If you're okay with me asking about this, and apparently your dad was also a competitive gamer. Is that true? Is that correct?
Yeah, so he played Tribe Star Siege at the time. Now it wasn't like anything like huge, it was just like early days of competitive gaming, and he played, and they had like some lands in Jönköping, or well in Sweden, like they would go down, and a lot of tribes people would fly over, and they would have like a big LAN party where they would play, etc.
See, like that feels really cool to me, and maybe to a few other people listening, they might think that. Does that mean that there was sort of maybe not a push or any sort of pressure, but was your family maybe a bit more accepting of sort of going pro gamer than maybe some other families would be? Because in general, you tend to find, if you go say to your parents when you're young, oh, I want to be a pro gamer, it's not, they'll tell you no to go be a doctor, something like that. But was it a bit more accepted, do you think, for you growing up?
I mean, like when I did say it, like I was speaking with my dad. He's like, yeah, I mean, go for it, but just don't like just give it your all. Then like don't waste your time. And I think obviously he just believed I had the ability to do well. And yeah, no, it wasn't really any problem with them, my parents. I was glad that they were supportive.
No, awesome, awesome.
Yeah. Anything else, Judas?
No, I'll throw it back to you. Fire away.
Also, so we have a lot of quick fire questions. As I say, there's so many people excited for this interview, so I will just reel them away. Number one, who was your first diamond god in Smite?
Mercury, I think.
Mercury. I didn't Solo or Troll say Mercury as well? Is that two people who said Mercury now?
Trying to think. It could have been, yeah. We'll have to watch that one back. I think it might have been. So we have a pattern developing.
Yeah, Mercury is the entry god for everybody. So this is a good one. So with the recent Stranger Things tie-in, we have of course started to see skins from other medias. If you could have one Smite tie-in with any film, any game, any other genre, who would it be? So I think we've had Dragon Ball Z, we've had SpongeBob. I think someone said Star Wars as well. So who would yours be that would make you go, yes, I'm buying it?
I think probably Dragon Ball Z as well. I love that growing up, so I think that would be pretty sick, and I think you could have some sick skins with it.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who. I think was it Hayes who said Dragon Ball Z, and I think he said Ravana. There's definitely a Ravana skin available in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a Vamana skin for the little guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Krillin.
Yeah, possibly Krillin. There's a Bacchus skin for the big guy. I've never seen Dragon Ball, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple of the characters. So yeah, that's 2 for Dragon Ball Z. So I'll make sure that Hindu Man sees this message and we get a Dragon Ball Z skin that everyone wants. Next one is, if you could remove any one god from the game, who would it be and why?
Afro or Haim? Afro because I hate her. She's just annoying. She just like heals people, speeds them up, peels, saves them. I don't know. I don't like supported characters like that. They make it harder for me. And Haim just because he's like a one-shot hunter that like is impossible to dive.
And watching him just
safe.
teleport away is always so disappointing. And I imagine as a jungler you get that a lot. And yeah.
He's super frustrating.
I like it. Afro because it's difficult to jungle against. I like it. That's a good answer. I also would like Afro removed from the game because she's rubbish and annoying.
Especially when you play arena like Kara.
Yes, when Afro Cesano in arena, don't even start me on that. Next one. If you could make one change to the Conquest map, what would it be?
To the map itself, honestly, that's I don't really know what would do to the map. What I would like to do to Conquest itself is just make invades a bit more rewarding again. Like make them like 80% XP yield instead of like 33% whatever it is now. Because it kind of sucks as a jungler that like it feels like you get punished for trying to counter jungle, playing for invades, taking backs, and not controlling them. Because you essentially you just don't end up falling behind the mid laners and the ADCs then instead. So it's
you sort of your gain there is by taking it away from the jungler rather than actually gaining it yourself, and that's sort of not really what you're looking for. You do want some extra extra points for invading, basically, and I can understand why it works that way, but no, I think especially maybe you're a little bit biased from a jungler's point of view, but yeah, no, it makes total sense that you would like to be rewarded for, I guess you call it progressive play. You're not being defensive, sitting back. You're actually making moves forward, and it is always risky. So I think I will agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I think my jungler and my team would certainly like to see more rewards for invades. As soon as they see a gank happen and they're like, right, let's invade, let's take buff, let's take camps. Yeah, I definitely think that would benefit the junglers. Next one, this is a fun one. The benevolence meta recently was pretty crazy. What is the most fun and the worst meta that you can remember?
I mean, worst meta is definitely the invade meta where the supports were running at you level 1. Like as a jungler, like that's obvious, I think. Back in like, was it season 6? You just get ran at by the support from level 1 till like level that they were just chasing you around the map, stopping you from doing backs, doing speed, doing anything. Best meta when hyper carries for OP, of course, for jungle, like Aokwang, Mercury, like all those picks were super strong. That was fun times.
Yeah. Answered every question like a true jungler here. I love it. When worst meta was when it was hard for me. Best meta was when it was easy for me. Brilliant. Next one is the new god looks so strong to the point that her kit seems broken. Which is the most broken god release you can remember?
Probably, to me, I think Bellona. I thought she was so broken on release that it wasn't even funny. She could like 1v3 from level 1 to like level 12, and then she could just 1v5 basically. Like I've never seen anything like it. I thought she was crazy.
Yeah,
Don't think anything else.
I'm totally agreeing with you there on the Bellona as well. I think I actually stopped playing from Bellona. It was ridiculous at one point. It was literally, obviously me, just casual scrub mode. It was just your Bellona versus their Bellona, and who can really take over, And it hopefully isn't the case with the new god as well. But there's a bit of a shift right now. I think I'll tag in a little question here. We see right now the meta, general picks and bans, and in our league specifically, bans almost entirely favor the brand new gods. It's very often the 6 top bands, 4 or 5 of them are the brand new gods. Do you think that's anything to do with the fact that they are still new? Obviously, you're still seeing your Set, Tsukiyomi, Tiamat, Gilgamesh, Morgan Le Fay now as well. All super highly rated picks and bands. Is that just a sort of, a power creep style where just the new gods are really good? Or do you think them being new and them being, obviously you've got to figure out how to play around them. Do you think that has anything to do with it? Or is it just because they're strong?
Well, it's both. I think like you have power creep in the fact that if you look at their kits and look at like older gods kits, they're completely like insane. Like look at something like King Arthur when he was released and compare that to like, I don't know, like Chak or like Hercules, you like 2-1-4 people. Like the kits have gotten so many like new different abilities with like different ways to play them, and usually they are released pretty OP because I think they prefer to release characters strong because then more people will play them. Than if you make a new character that's bad and buff him to a point where he's actually good, then people still might not play him because they just have like the impression that he was bad before, so he's always gonna be bad. And then also, yeah, for sure that like a lot of teams won't have figured out like the best way to play against that new character when it comes out too. But in some sort of like Tiamat, like I'm not really sure like why is the hard counter to Tiamat outside of banning it? Like he's like even if he's doing nothing, he just shoots out minions that like eat your Titan. So like have fun.
Yeah, as a solo laner, it is a nightmare when you come to lane and there is also not only your opponent but 12 Tiamat minions to deal with as well. And every time you back, you just know that it's constant pressure. So yeah, Tiamat is a pain. But I think you're absolutely right there about the complexity of the kits. If you look at some of the early gods, all their kits are just this does damage in a line. Now it's this stacks this passive that if it's activated, this triggers as well. But yeah, I can understand them wanting to be more complex and try new things out with new gods. We have another question. If you could rework any single god ability, what would it be? I think what this question is that if you've got one god and you can change one ability to anything else, what would it be? I think that was the idea behind the question, because they've said here that they would add Geb's Ground Slam to Ganesh.
Oh, so like you would transfer the abilities from one god to another.
Yeah, I think so. So they said they would add Geb's Ground Slam instead of Kepri's 2. So Kepri would have the root, the grab, the knock up, the ultimate as well. I mean, that too much CC for a Guardian, but I can see why they'd want that. So yeah, if you could swap any ability into any god, what would it be?
Oh man, I have to think. That's a difficult question.
I'll throw mine in to give you a bit of sheds, because I did see this discussed in the Discord, and it's very simple. You take Naja and you give him the Ra ult. There you go. Swap ults just like that. Easy peasy.
Wait, what? So you just roll ults instead?
Yeah, you just roll ult instead. No, look, whenever you dodge ult, people just take the kill from you at the end. So it does about the same damage. It's just now you don't kill yourself whenever you dash in and miss. Like I'm sure you don't miss, especially as much as I do. But
I was gonna say, I've seen you play Naja, Judas. All you're doing is giving you a chance more to miss the ultimate. At least the Naja ult can be done straight after the sash.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. Like I can't answer this quickly. I'd have to like think about this. I'm not. I'm trying to think of like a fun character to add like a fun ability to like.
Well, if you want more thinking time, feel free to tweet it back to us when you've had a little bit of time to think about that one, because we have got actually a few more questions. Like I said, we had so many sent to us this week. If you weren't a pro Smite player, but you had to be a pro of another game, what would it be and why?
Well, currently I'm like addicted to Apex, but I don't actually think I would want to be an Apex pro because it doesn't really seem as lucrative as like other games. I don't know, like I think the coolest game to be like a pro in would be like CS:GO or Dota, but I haven't really played those games, so I'm not sure. But like just for like obvious reasons, like there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of cool events, and obviously a lot of money. So
and they're so huge still, and I think specifically with something like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is so easy to figure out what's going on. Like when you look at Smite, say someone just on Twitch browsing some games and they find a Smite game, maybe it's a bit complicated for what exactly is going on. Whereas Counter Strike, it's very clearly one team shooting the other team, and they get so popular just from that. You can get so many people watching it, and I think you are right. You can really be like a star from Counter Strike. I do wonder who the first major gaming celebrity will be. We don't really have that yet. Who will be the Messi of Counter Strike? Like, will we ever get to that point? I wonder, but maybe it'll be the adapted of Smite. Who knows? Who knows how things will shake up?
Yeah. The next one we have got. What do you think of the current state of the jungle? Because everyone is saying it's weak.
I would say it also feels slightly weak because just like one of the things is like the invades aren't really punishable, and also like I don't know, I feel like you're also in a state where you have to constantly farm everything, and if you like try and play around the map, it feels like you get punished because you're just not farming on cooldown. So like you need to have a very high success rate when it comes to like ganks, and like even if you're invading, and getting successful invades off, you can still fall behind your jungle counterpart just because of the fact that they might, like, if they're not around to defend the buff, say they're just off farming meanwhile, like just doing back harpies and just completely ignoring going to defend the buff, they can still like get ahead because they're not like 3 men splitting a red buff invade, which is like worth nothing for you basically.
Yeah.
Um,
We had a question in the chat, which weirdly is almost similar to the question I was about to ask. So they've said, who is your all-star pro Smite team? But the question I had was, if you were a coach, who would you pick from any era to be your 5-man Smite team?
Right, so if I was a coach, who would I pick for like, I mean, I think I'd probably have to go with, like, the way it is right now, I would probably say Yamin, Panda, PBM. I don't really know jungle. But solo maybe. I'd probably just Dimmy solo. And then put in a jungler there. I'd have to think like throughout the eras, like. There are some good junglers. I don't know.
There's been some tough ones over the years. The jungler always seems to be a bit of a standout role. I think from a fan's point of view, because the jungler sort of, in my opinion at least, sort of like a playmaker early on. You sort of see if something's going to happen in a lane, it's because the jungler showed up, and you hear the caster screaming, "Oh, here comes adapting!" It gets you excited because that's when something's going to happen. So yeah, I can understand you not being able to pick up a jungle pick there. Even like first world, you think Andinster coming in on Thor all the time. It makes a big moment. We'll let you pick yourself if you really can't choose.
I think that's why they
I'm not gonna do that because I'm the coach. But like it depends, because every year there was like, I would say a new player that was probably like there wasn't like one constant throughout my career where I thought like this guy's like good every year. Like we'll be like, oh, suddenly like Cuba Fred like got good for a while. I was like, okay, this guy's like really good now. Like this is my best competition in EU right now, etc. And like I would have like that throughout every year. Like would be like a new player, like okay, like now this guy is like really difficult to play against, or so I'm not really sure, but like I'll just say Andenster because he was my like a big reason I even got into jungling, and I thought he was actually really sick in like season 1 worlds. So
yeah, not layers then.
Not layers.
So I have got 2 questions left. One of them is, which god, or I'm guessing they're going to ask jungle, which jungler do you think has the most complete kit?
Most complete kit, probably Mercury, because he has slow immunity, he has a steroid, he has long range poke, he has a global or like semi global, like people have like the best ganks in the game pretty much of a jungler because of his ult. He has DPS, he can split push, he's really good at 1v1ing. He's got some like flexibility in like the red leg choice, like you can get away with getting a blink on him or an Aegis if you need it. And yeah, he's got two CC abilities. He can basically do anything, but you have to play him well, or he's just difficult to play well, I think.
Yeah, well, there you go, prospective junglers. Mercury is the one to pick up if you're looking to play jungle. I've only got one question left, Judas, and you already know what it's going to be. So I'm going to ask you if you have any before we sign off.
Do I have any final question? You throw me on the spot. I was getting my plugs ready. All right. No. So you've taken yourself out of the SPL scene for this season at least. But I'm assuming you still at least keep up with it and keep an eye on what's going. So in that case, who is Adapting's choice for the team that you would support in the SPL currently?
Honestly, I would support Bolts or Kings. I think both teams are fun to watch, and I actually really like the storyline kind of Bolt. I think they're all great guys to begin with, but also the fact that there was some drama in the off season, but they ended up kind of sticking together and getting headaches, and the fact that they went from being this kind of inconsistent team that took games off top teams last year to now being they're 8-0 right now in SPL. I think
ridiculous.
That's pretty sick. And then with the Kings, I think you have the rookie Genetics, for example, but then also Big Man, who I really enjoyed playing with last year. And also the old players like Twig, Variety, the coach. I mean, I just think they're a cool team as well. And I think the way they play the map is kind of different. They play a lot more macro than other teams.
Yeah.
They don't really have a traditional way of play. They just play the way that they like to play the game, and it works well for them. I think that's fun too.
I think you managed to pick the two teams that me and Judas support, because I'm a fan of the Camelot Kings, and Judas is of course a Bolts fan. So it's almost like you knew that question was coming. Is that it, Judas? I've got my final question.
Yeah, that's it from me. I'm happy.
All right. So before I ask the final question, I just want to say, of course, thank you once again, Adapting, for coming in. It really does mean a lot that you've come here to just have a little chat with us. We are currently just a small little amateur league in Europe with big ambitions to become, hopefully, one of the best European leagues. And having someone such as yourself even just come and chat to us does mean a lot. So my final question to you is, who should be our guest next week?
Ooh, Big Man Things.
Big Man Tings. There we go. I will fire the question out to him this week to come on. He's been told by Adapting he has to come on, so that's it now. Here he is. But as I said, that is the final message from me. Thank you so much, Adapting. It really, really does mean a lot. Judas, I will leave the final message to you this week, as you always throw it to me, and now it is your turn to sign off the podcast.
All right. First thing I'll just say, thank you, Adapting, for coming in again from me. But is there anything you'd like us to plug for you? Do you want me to link, for example, your Twitch, Twitter? What would you like to get from us to tell everyone here how they can follow you in the future?
Yeah, if you could just get my Twitch, so twitch.tv/theadapting, my Twitter, twitter.com/adapting, and then for YouTube, it's just I think you just search Adapting on YouTube and you'll find it too. And then I have my merch as well that you can check out. The easiest way to do that is probably just to go on my Twitch page, and you can scroll down and find it.
Of course, repping the merch right now. The king that is Adapting. Look at it, the hoodie, the hat, it's all yours. Available to purchase, as you said, through his merch store.
But thank you for coming on. I hope everyone enjoyed it.